Good turnout. Appreciate it. Um, we have a pretty simple agenda today, and hopefully you'll do more of the talking than we do. Uh, yeah. I got a few slides I want to go through, a few questions we want to go through about transparency, but after that, any questions that you have, we got a few questions that were submitted. Any questions about anything that you have, we encourage you to ask, and we'll see how it goes from there, okay? This meeting is here for you. So, um, transparency, that's the topic today. I worked in the corporate world for a long time, and there's a lot of people who use a lot of fancy words in the corporate world. I call it corporate speak. And quite often, even people who want to sound like they know what they're talking about like to use words like corporate speak. So I just came up with a list of some of the terms I've heard. See if these sound familiar to you. Paradigm shift, align, synergy, new normal, corporate culture, think outside the box, circle back, take it to the next level, blue sky thinking, disruptive, the cloud, bandwidth, pivot, low-hanging fruit, transparency, and accountability. Okay, bingo. I even wrote a little sentence here that you might hear. See what you think about the sentence. The new normal has resulted in a paradigm shift to our corporate culture, which will require increased bandwidth in order to take it to the next level. Of course, we'll have to ensure that as we pivot into new territory, which could be disruptive, we need to align our staff through transparency and accountability in order to harvest the low-hanging fruit. Sounds pretty fancy. What did I just say? Yeah. What did I just say? Yeah. I had a boss who spoke like that. And then I had to go explain to people what he really meant. Okay, so the word transparency has a lot of meanings to a lot of people. And, lately people have talked about they'd like to see more transparency from the HOA, and that's a fair request. So before we get into that, I'd like to hear from you all. What do you think the word transparency means? Yes, sir. Oh, I'm going to repeat what you say, or if you can come up here, that would help too. We have people who are going to look at us remotely, and so we want to give them the benefit of hearing. Yeah.
My name is Dave Stapp. I live here in Coral Canyon, and I wrote down 3 things of transparency, what transparency means to me. And since I'm retired law enforcement, transparency means everything. And my interpretation of that, number 1 in law enforcement, is honesty. Second thing, integrity. And the third thing that I wrote down is professionalism.
Nice.
Well, thank you.
Anybody? You're going to be a hard act to follow now, Anybody else? You want to add to it? Yes, Brad.
Here's what transparency means to me. It's various methods of informing the community members about what's happening. And I mean, some people have a preference of phone, some people face-to-face, somebody are fine with digital, but just getting the information. And then transparency to me is also when decisions are going to be made, that information is made prior to a decision and that the community has an opportunity for input. And then the third thing that I would say about it whenever you're working with any kind of a board situation, that we have to realize that the board ultimately is going to make the decision. And just because they hear what we say, that isn't meaning they're going to do what we say, because they're hearing it from a lot of different people, not just myself. So that's what transparency is to me.
Great. Thank you. Anybody else? Wonderful.
My thoughts on transparency, especially from the board, is, and I think we've had this conversation about the thing you guys have to sign when you're elected, as far as integrity and everything like that. Transparent to me, I want to know when a vote comes up and the vote is finished, I want to know how the board members voted. Singular, not as a whole group. I want to know how each board member voted.
By the way, that is available in the minutes.
It is in minutes?
Yeah, if somebody, usually I'll ask for a vote, and I'll say all in favor. If everybody is in favor, it goes through. If anybody, then I'll ask for anybody who is not in favor, and we record all that. So it's in the board minutes.
So that board member that say votes no on something, he has the right to stand up and say that then?
Too, of course, of course.
And you guys aren't obligated as a group to act as one?
Well, you know, let's get, that's a great question.
Okay, go
And
ahead.
hold
I'll
that
sit down.
question. I'm just trying to stay on the track here. So I'd like to talk about that. Yes. Yeah, we should talk about that. Thank you very much. Yeah. Anybody else? Okay, I don't want to take too much time. Oh.
Okay, Ben, you know. Anyway, transparent means to me is when the community along with the CCMC are open-minded when dealing with the facts and the matter of any situation that arises with any subject.
Okay, thank you.
Simple as that.
Now, in the interest of time, I did a little AI research. Everybody seems to like to do AI research lately. It used to be Google, now it's AI. And so I came up with this as general meaning. And I think it's pretty much what you all said. The quality of being open, honest, and clear, especially in sharing information about how and why decisions are made. Providing homeowners with access to relevant, timely, and comprehensive information, which enables them to better understand the decisions. Okay? So they may not be all encompassing, but I thought we should just sort of have an understanding of what we're all talking about. Now, let's talk about what you think an HOA board and staff and homeowners should be doing relative to transparency. What are the things that an HOA in general should be doing to help their homeowners understand what's going on and be transparent? What are some of the things that come up in your heads? Communication. Okay. Well, I have a list. Public relations. Okay, yeah. Talk to them on the trails, whatever, right? What else? Yes. What was that? Seeking the correct information. Okay, I'm going to repeat these so that people can hear it remotely. What else? Oh, this is easy. We don't have to do very much, do we? What else? Chronicle, newsletter. Okay. Somebody had their hand up here. What you're doing and how much is it costing? Good. Financial information, right? What else? Okay, I don't want to belabor this all day, so I'll give you a list. We did some research there. We found two different things that I thought I'd share with you. One is we came up with pillars of an HOA transparency. Financial, that was mentioned, open meetings, communication, and accountability. So those are sort of general terms. And what are some of the things that HOAs can do? And this is not my list. I just did some research about what HOAs do in terms of being communicating with their homeowners and trying to be transparent. And I came up with this list. I'll read it only because I want people, can they see this? Okay, so I don't have to go through all of it, but open communication, newsletters, email updates, social media, homeowner feedback, accessible financial reports, financials, budgets, reserve study, etc. Regular HOA meetings, get input and even debate with homeowners, clear decision-making process, transparent feedback systems, in other words, ways to be able to get feedback from the homeowners, Board member selection, clear election process, meet the candidates, regular policy reviews and upgrades, community involvement in projects, and utilize technology. So that's sort of a list that we came up with just to make people think. And where we're going with this is we would like to know from you what we can do that we're not currently doing. Now, as you look at that list, how much of that do you think we're currently, how would you grade our HOA in terms of that list? I'm sorry? Okay. Anybody else? Brad is up. Okay. Up. Okay. So far, okay, I'm getting a lot of ups. Anybody have? What I'm more interested in, though, is in knowing if anybody has ideas of things that we're not doing that we should be doing. Can I? I don't know if I like the word fail. Where we could do better. Excuse me. What was that? Would you like to come up here?
What we had on the views failed. That was a failure. My question to that is, why? Where was the communication to our HOA that you were even thinking about this till after it was already a done fact?
Yeah, the board, yes, we did fail. The board has had a lot of conversation about that, okay? And we're trying to figure out, where did we fail? We had, you can help me out here, but we had ad nauseum articles. We had letters that went out. We had a town hall meeting where we talked about it. We did everything we possibly could to provide you with as much information as we can. So I'm not sure we failed on the transparency side, but was it because we weren't transparent that people voted against it? Or was it because they didn't want it? That's my question to you. Was it a transparency issue? What could we have done?
Well,
What could we have done?
I was the one that I did not want it. I'll admit that. I was against it. But my point is, when you guys first thought this, why was there not a meeting to bring this to the HOA, say, hey, guys, this is what we're thinking about doing. This is how it's going to either benefit you. Here's the pros, here's the cons. That did not happen till after you had the town hall saying, hey, we're going to do it. There was no question at that town hall about should we do it, that we're going to pursue it, but we're going to do the vote. But even the way you guys did the vote was kind of cockeyed to me.
Well, it wasn't a vote, really.
Yeah, I
Okay.
know. That was the whole
Right.
point.
Right. It was not a vote. It followed exactly what the CCNRs stipulate you need to do when you have a resolution. So let me give you a little history. How long have you been here? I'm just curious. 13 years. So the history is that this is the previous board. I was on that board. No, I'm not talking about Coal West. I'm talking about the resident board, okay? The first one. I was on it. Mike was on it right from the beginning. Mark joined it a little later. I should have introduced the board members. I apologize. Mark, go ahead. Mark, Mike, Paula, Jeff, and Allison is in the back. She's not a board member. She's a board officer, but she helps us a lot, okay? So here's a little bit of history for what it's worth, because I'm trying to be transparent. The views, when we first joined the board, started that board about 4.5 years ago, one of the first things we heard was the people from the views telling us that they felt like they were a stepchild. Okay? And there was a lot of conversation by a lot of the people in the views that they wanted to de-annex. And so at that time, we said, well, if that's how you feel, the board has the power to provide for a vote for you to de-annex. So what it meant was that the views would have to have 67% of all the views homes vote for de-annexation. That didn't occur. We also then told them that if they want, we'll provide them with a vote to join us completely. And the board at that time decided to have that kind of a vote. Okay? But it wasn't carried out until, because we had other priorities, we sort of postponed it. So this board felt that our obligation was to follow the commitment that was already made to have that vote. That's why that's the pattern of what we went through. Now, we tried before the time period, well, let me back up. The CCNRs specifically state that if a board votes for a resolution, the homeowners have 30 days to oppose it if they get more than 10% of the people opposing it. And that's what happens. Now, if that was an issue of transparency, I'd like to know what else we could have done transparency-wise. We did have a town hall. We did send out letters. What is it that we could have done otherwise to help people make a better decision if they didn't, from a transparency point of view? That's what I'd like to know. Yes, sir. We could have provided more financial analysis. Can you say more about that? Right. Well, that wasn't defined at that time because we didn't know whether we're even going to have a vote to integrate. When we had the resolution, what happened, the resolution was strictly a resolution to allow the views to have a vote as to whether they want to, yeah. That resolution was not to integrate the views. That resolution was to allow the views to have a vote in order to know whether, it was a resolution to allow them to vote to integrate. Okay, it was not a vote, that resolution was not to integrate them. It was simply to allow the views to have a vote as to whether they want to integrate with the master. And as part of that, they were going to have to figure out what happened to the reserves, what happened to the financials, all of those kind of things. We weren't there yet. They never got the opportunity to have that vote. It was relevant to the people in the views, yes. Okay. We talked. Yes, and we told you that the impact, we were very clear about it, that the impact would be $3 to the people and the master. We did. There's a board.
You already had it in the, had a town hall and have a vote. Yeah, you never would have had to go through all that trouble and expense to have a vote probably. I don't know for sure. You would have spoken to that at a town hall before.
We did not have a vote. We did not have a vote. No.
Why did I vote no?
You didn't vote. You signed. Okay, it was not a vote. It was if more than 10% of the people object to the resolution, then it doesn't pass through.
You can call whatever you want, but we got a chance to voice our opinion.
You did.
Or no.
Yes,
So
you
if
did.
that's not a vote, I don't know what is.
Okay, well, call it what you want. But the point is, you did get informed about what the $3 was and how we got there, and you had the opportunity.
I'm not arguing that.
Okay, what could we have done? Now, you talked about the reserves, right? The reserves of the. What's that? What terms?
Why do we have to pay their dues?
Okay. Okay. You know what? I'm be willing to talk about the views after we get through with this first question. What could we have done to be more transparent? We couldn't change it because if we integrated them, everybody would have the same dues. That was the whole idea.
No.
Okay. Yes. Yes.
You raised ours and lowered theirs.
And then everybody would have the same dues.
But they're not the same. If you're gonna raise mine, I understand your point, everybody's paying a flat, but you raised mine, so that's not the same.
I understand. And a lot of people had a problem with paying $3 extra. I get it.
How many times have you raised our dues over the last 3 or 4 years? Come on.
We're going to talk more about that in our next. Okay, I'm not going to get into that right now. We can later on, but we're not prepared to talk about whether or not and how much we're going to raise.
It's not a matter of $3. $3 is not going to make or break anybody here, I'm sure. It's just the point of it that you put us in that process, raise our dues, and why you pursued the idea to raise our dues. Not come to the HOA and say, hey, this is how it's going to benefit you. This is how that $3 extra a month is going to benefit you. You didn't do that.
Yes, we did. We
No,
tried.
you
Well,
didn't do that.
we
You
tried.
had it at the town hall, all set, already in process. It was already going to happen.
Excuse me. We informed you, and you made a decision. Okay? It was not in process. We followed exactly what the CCNRs allow us to do. So, what would you have done differently? What?
I would have, at that town hall, of doing. Before we go through all the trouble, all the expense, the money, whatever it costs to send the ballots out, the pursuit of ballots, this is what you should think about first. You guys like the idea or you don't like the idea? If you like the idea, we're gonna go on with it, we're gonna spend the money, do the balloting and expense and everything else, then we'll, or if the HOA says, no, it's just not worth it, don't do it. It should have been the end of the deal right then and there. I'm not talking about CCR, I'm talking about the HOA. The CCRs don't inform you before something happens.
Hang on.
They act on the
But
CCR.
that's what they're bound by, right? The elected,
Absolutely.
They're bound, and so there is a
I
process.
understand that.
I'm just saying that there is a process. It's in the CCRs. They did some analysis. They gave us analysis. And then they said, this is what we feel is going to happen. And then that's where we got the chance to object. That was that 10% vote, and we rejected it. So that's what I'm just like, I don't understand. You keep saying they could have done more analysis or this, but why go through more analysis or more time if we were going to reject it anyways? We had that opportunity to voice our opinion.
You would have had an opportunity to voice your opinion first. Why we would have gone through all that trouble to do it.
Because that's what the CCRs tell them they have to do.
Well, you know what? I got to tell you something. We have town halls every, quarter. We ask people to provide us with input. Okay, when we passed this resolution with the previous board, all we heard was from people saying, we'd like to see the views become part of us.
At
So
that
we-
town hall, that's what you heard?
Not that town hall. As I tried to explain to you, that town hall was way after the resolution was passed.
Terms and conditions were not in order.
The terms, what?
Yeah, we're
The
supposed to have them be a part of it. The terms and
Okay.
The terms and conditions were not clear.
What terms and conditions were not clear?
Us taking over part of their business.
The terms and okay, we can go round and round and round in this. Did you read the letter that I wrote that went out on an email well before the town hall? You didn't? You don't remember? Well, it was very clear about what the impact would be.
I think that's where I already have it's like, no, I'm not going to take over their business.
You must get emails from us because you're here today, right? So apparently that email didn't get to you. That was something.
Well, I think it was clear to me, it's like, that's why I was
Okay.
against them coming on or taking on their.
Let's move on for a second, okay? Let's move on for a second. Now, here are some of the ways that we think Coral Canyon provides transparency. And what we're going to ask you to do, if you had the handouts, is think a little bit more about things that we don't do that you think we can do relative to transparency. We'd also like to hear them here if you have some in mind. But let's go through this first. So under financial, we provide monthly board meetings, online balance sheets, income statements, audit reports, annual budgets, and reserve studies. We provide monthly open financial committee meetings. How many of you have attended one of our financial committee meetings? You might learn something, okay? Just look at the Chronicle. We show you when and where they're going to be. Yeah. Okay. Write something down there so we don't forget it. Somebody takes notes on that. Okay. We can certainly record them. We do record them, I think. Don't we? We record them. Yeah. I'm sorry? Okay. You are allowed to attend all committee meetings. By law, you have that right. Okay? Just so you know. Now, under open meetings, we talked about board meetings. They are available online. You can look at those anytime, day or night, if you want to, by pressing a link. We have committee meetings, as we talked about. You all are allowed to attend those committee meetings. True, a lot of them are during the day. Availability of agendas, minutes, and recordings. We publish those in the Chronicle. Town halls, like today. Let me continue. Under communication, we have the weekly Chronicle and periodic email blasts. Website access to governing documents, election information, contracts, policy resolution, design review committee documents, code of ethics, insurance certificates, and more. Monthly Q&A with the HOA. We have a bulletin board, community calendar. We have access to board and staff members. You can email any board member by simply pressing a link on the Chronicle, or you can email the staff, okay? Access to, we have resident advisors as well. I think we can do better. We can do more work there. We're planning on doing more work there, okay? So when it comes to accountability, we have open election process. Policies, and we regularly review policies and improvements, and we have communication as we outlined above. Now, that's some of the stuff we wrote down. There's more things that we tried to do, but one of the things that the board has had a lot of conversations with is how can we get more people to know what's going on? Because we often hear, I didn't hear that, I didn't see that, you didn't tell us that, and we've tried. So what we'd like you to think about, and you don't have to answer now unless you have some ideas, is what else can we do to inform people of what's going on? And at the same time, I would ask you, what do the homeowners need to do to be informed? Because I think you also have a responsibility. I can't make you read the Chronicle. I can't make you read the emails, okay? Somebody, you have to do that yourself. So with that, I'm gonna stop my little slide presentation and open it up for any input that you have relative to that question, and then we'll go to anything else that's on your mind. Before I move on, any comments by the board members? Mark?
People hear me? I will try to talk. Oh, Scott, talk right into it. How can I read?
Talk right into it like that. Mark, like that, like that. There you go.
Hello? Hello? I've never.
That's the antenna. Just levitate. You'll get it 200.
Hello? Oh. Louder. I do a lot better not talking at all. I should sit back down and make everybody happy. Elon and I had a little conversation this morning where we were running through, you know, what constitutes transparency, what can the organization do that we're not doing. And I reminded him that we're not a transparent organization. By law, we can't be.
about 25%, maybe 30% of all of our board meetings are executive sessions. We use those sessions for legally defined topics, contracts, employee personnel issues. Somebody can chime in if I forget one. Lawsuits, consultations with attorneys, and you're starting to get the picture. The thing we can't be transparent about is, let's say TDS is your computer provider, your internet provider. The day that you send off your auto pay for your assessment. And so a month later, you get a nastygram from the HOA that you failed to pay your assessment. You can test that. Now, the law provides an opportunity for the board to have those discussions and hear the outside of the public forum, and for good reason. Those executive sessions are there to protect your privacy. You don't want the whole neighborhood to know that you got a nastygram because you got weeds in your driveway. You also don't want the whole neighborhood to know that you missed an assessment and you received a fine for that. That is part of the transparency issue. That's why I call it translucent. You're not going to see everything that goes on. Those executive sessions are all recorded. You can get a court order if you here. Yeah. Anyway, I just wanted to add that to Elon's presentation. As we can do. Everybody can look at the financial. Is this one on? Oh, man. Of course, I forgot what I'm talking about. But yes, the translucent part of this is we provide you with everything that we think we can legally provide you with without violating people's right to privacy. And I hope you guys are accepting of that. There are issues when we discuss contracts. We do publish those contracts in the portal for residents. The amount of those contracts is not published there because that is not really public information. Mike, you had a question.
But you guys do those meetings, guys occasionally.
No.
That's a really good point, and the answer to that is we're not allowed to make decisions in the executive sessions. We have to reconvene. We have to stop the executive session, reconvene into a public session, and then hold a vote that becomes part of the public record. That's a really good point. Thanks for bringing that up. I'd like to go sit down and hide again if everybody's tired
Go
of
sit
me.
down. Okay, so I haven't heard any ideas. What can we do better? Now, before you come up, one of the things that I read in my research, and had a lot more than these slides, is not only do we have to provide the information, we have to try to make it understandable. And that's the challenge. That's our challenge. And I can't tell you how many conversations we've had about how can we help people have a better understanding of the decisions that we're making and why. So think about that as well. But you had an idea. You come up here. LA Dodgers.
First, I'd like to say I think the HOA and the board is doing an excellent job of providing a lot of helpful information. What I think you're missing is that when you make decisions in your minutes, it just says you vote a certain way. You'd be better off if you said we vote this way and say why. You said you want to know the why. You want to tell us the why. When you make the decisions, there should be a reason why you voted the way you voted. Why did you vote that way? It should be there other than just say we voted this way. That'd be a suggestion for the board meetings. As far as the financial information, you provide in some ways, an overabundance of information. What's missing is your analysis of the information. What does it mean to you? How are we standing with the objectives, the plans that you laid out at the beginning of the year, the things you're looking to accomplish? Where's that analysis? It doesn't have to be every month, maybe at least quarterly, though.
You're right. Okay.
Can I go sit back down?
Thank you. Is somebody recording this? Mike, are you recording this? Is somebody recording this? You're recording this? I don't want to lose all this. Okay. You want to talk about the financial part?
Yeah, I've had such good luck with this. Good. I thought it was me. Every month we have a board meeting. Prior to that board meeting, we meet once or twice with the finance committee, of which I like to remind people that I am merely the messenger, not so much the decision maker. And every chronicle following the board meeting, there is a section there where it says treasurer's report. And what that report contains is something called the chairman's report for the month. And it details exactly the income, the expenditures, the budget in something called the budget variance, which is also part of that document package. You can see whether our monthly budget projections were exceeded or we accumulated money. It's pretty well set out in one very nice document that the Finance Committee consults on and creates every month, so I can carry that report to the board. I make that report to the board in a public meeting, and there's normally some discussion that goes on about what that document contains. If you don't access the Chronicle on a regular basis, you miss that vital piece of information that's in there. And I can only suggest that if you're not in the habit of looking at the Chronicle, look at it. I'm really bad at looking at it, but it's in there.
Yeah. Actually, it's not only in the Chronicle. If you go to our website, there's a link to every board meeting, okay? Amy, did you want?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. It's not in the Chronicle. It's on the website. I just wanted to answer Brent's question about minutes. So Robert's Rule of Order says that minutes are a recording of action items that happen, not discussions. That's why when you look at the minutes, you'll never see the discussion that the board has. But all the board meetings are recorded, and that's where their discussion's held. So if you watch the recording, you'll see that.
Let me add a couple of editorial comments. As Mark and I were talking this morning, I was saying to him that, I'll get you in a second, okay? I told him that I've been in a lot of executive corporate meetings, and the CFO always has their report. And I always sit there and I start getting dizzy with all the numbers. And I basically want to know, are we this way or are we that way? Are we in trouble or are we not? So I think that going through the financials and looking at the website is very useful. But if you have a question, pick up the phone and call. That's what our staff is there for. Amy can explain to you in detail what's going on in those financials, okay? So that's one thing. Now, to your point, the why, I think that's a really good point. I think, especially if important decisions are made, we owe you an explanation as to why, okay?
I think you missed the point about what I was saying about financial analysis. All that information Mark talked about is facts and figures. But where is the analysis? Where's the evaluation? The ups and downs, the variances, that's all numbers. But where are we at in terms of analyzing how we're doing with respect to overall goals? How have we done in terms of projects that we budgeted for? We can see the variance, but why are we over or why are we under? Why do you know, where's the analysis of that? I see them every time, every month.
Do you also listen to the board meetings? And that you don't think you're getting enough of that? Okay, is there any? Okay, I don't think it's worthwhile to cast stones at people, okay? I've done plenty of analysis in my life. I'm not here to defend that. But I'm not sure we understand exactly. I'd love to see an example of what you're looking for at some time. But good, seriously. Okay, now, Allison, did you have a comment? Oh, Susie?
Oh, I'm just saying, I want to talk about the Chronicle in general, and that I think we're abusing it in that we are putting everything in that one thing. And how many of you scroll and scroll, and then it says, hey, if you want to look at financial stuff, click here. And it takes you, and if I'm on my phone and I'm not at home, I don't go to the websites or anything like that. So I would rather see like targeted outside of the social stuff that is in the Chronicle, something targeted to those of us, because money is important to all of us. I think that we could do some summaries or a review of the board separate from here's all your games and, you know, things that go on, because it gets buried from my perspective, and it goes on, and about the third scroll down, I'm done reading.
Allison?
Oh, no, I just...
Okay, okay. It would be by the way, it would be helpful, especially if we have people who are accountants or CPAs or business people, provide us with some examples of what they're looking for, because I'm still struggling right now as to what it is that we need to provide. Did you have something?
I was going to talk to Sue's point there. The idea of the Chronicle was created late in 2022. And at the time, there was talk about doing completely away with the website and having all of the pertinent information in the Chronicle. That was debated. It was decided by the board, of which I was not a member of at the time, that they wanted to maintain the website. And I think that's a very good decision. The website is packed with the information. The weekly newsletter is just a little heads up. And I think Sue's comment, and I don't want to make any derogatory comments about the 15 clubs and their notices and that sort of thing. There should be some categories that you can click on. One for HOA news, once for meetings and events, and maybe a question and answer portal where you can leave a question. I think discussing the need to redo and redesign the Chronicle is obviously something we can work on in the future. It's not going to happen right now. We seem to have a pretty full plate. So.
Okay, did you have a question?
I feel like that's what happened with the view thing. It was buried in the bottom of that, you scroll through it. And also, if somebody hadn't pointed it out to me, I didn't realize if I didn't agree, I had to send something in. It should be something that comes out that says yes or no. That was the problem with the View.
Okay, I guess a lot of you missed the letter that went out that, outlined the process, that outlined everything that you just pointed out. Mm-hmm. Well, go ahead.
The Chronicle, you're right, it's the same, it's the clubs. We always put the most important stuff at the beginning. So if you're 3 down and you see you're right. From then on, not a lot changes, but we want that available to new homeowners so that they know what's available in the Chronicle. But the most important things are always at the very beginning, and we try to prioritize them. Okay, send it to me. I'd love to see it, because we all at the bottom are HOA contact information, board information, clubs, upcoming events, and all the important stuff's always at the top. So I'd like to see that. Plus, and we did send out quite a bit other information. We sent a special blast with the letter.
I just want to follow up. So you and Amy are justifying our feedback, and I don't necessarily need the history of what we're giving you. I just want the notes to be taken. It's like, we're saying there's a problem with the Chronicle, then probably there's a problem with the Chronicle. Let's take that as an action item and look at it.
Okay, a number of people, we are taking notes. We are taking notes, but here's the deal. Transparency is a two-way street. It's not us only, okay? You have a responsibility as well. If you don't have the internet available, there's nothing I can do about that. I can't send a pigeon over. So homeowners do have a responsibility if they want to know what's going on. And if you're not getting into the Chronicle, if you're not getting into the website, call. I never get any calls. I'm very lonely. Call me, email me, okay? Ask the question so you can have an answer instead of relying on next door, comments that are made on next door by people who don't know what they're talking about. Call and ask, and you'll get. We can't predict every question that you're going to all have. It's just impossible.
I just wanted to make a comment about financials. I'm Brad Cabrera, and I'm on the Finance Committee. I've been on the Finance Committee for, well, 3.5 years now. And I do go to, I think since this board has started, I've been to probably 90% of their board meetings. And the ones that I don't attend, I usually watch online. And one of the reasons I go to the board meeting, because there is so much information that I gather that helps me be a good member of the Finance Committee. And we do analyze things. And one of the questions that we always ask Mike when he was the chair, and we ask this year when we started out on our committee, is what does the board want from us? Rather than us spending on a Finance Committee time that the board doesn't want us to do, what do we want? And the thing they have basically told us, both of them, the board wants to know, how are we doing? Are we staying on budget? Are we getting our money in? Are we doing things? And that's one of the things we do at our Finance Committee. Our Finance Committee gets all the financials the week before, usually about anywhere from Wednesday to Friday of the week before our Finance Committee. And we review it. We go through it, we make notes, and we ask a lot of questions. And we ask questions about, why is this line item over? How did that happen? We ask questions like that. We look at everything. We look at the bottom line. We look at how revenue is in. And then the report that goes to the board meeting is kind of a concise one. It's not a lot of detail because they rely on us to do that. We have 5 members on our committee, And we spend quite a bit of time. I probably spend the week before 3 or 4 hours just going through the budget, and the committee members can attest. I ask a lot of questions, and I question things. Why is this? Why is that? And it's nothing about that I don't trust the people that I'm working with. I just want to know, and I want to be able to come up with questions so that when things go to the board, Mike did it, Mark is doing it, he can tell the board what we're doing. And when I go to the board meetings and listen to the treasurer's report, it's not a lot of detail because a lot of those questions have been asked before. And like tomorrow, our finance committee, we're going to be spending 2 hours, or 3 hours actually tomorrow, starting to work on our recommendations for the 2026 budget. And what we do, we go through it, we ask questions, we look at different ways to put the budget together, what should be funded, what should not, and then that becomes a recommendation to the board. And then the board will go through that, and they will make whatever adjustments that they think is necessary, and then that's the budget that the board will eventually vote on theirs. And we do our best to get that budget out as soon as we can. But one of the things that people need to understand is right now, so far we've met, I think, what, 3 times? Probably 3 times. But we're looking at data from January through the end of July. And we're trying to plan for things that are going to go from now until the end of December. We're guessing about revenue that comes in. We're interest, for example, you don't know what interest is doing. So we do a lot of those things. So, I mean, I guess my point is I just want to assure people there are people that are going through your budgets, and we're looking at it, and we're raising questions. I was also on the ad hoc committee for the views. And I know one of the things that the board got criticized on is that there wasn't enough information. Well, we put out all the information that we had, because what we were doing is we were basing estimates for 2026 on 2024 data. And so if I had to criticize the board on anything on that, we probably put the thing out too soon because we could have gathered more data. And but I just want you to know we are looking at it, and if anybody is interested in spending several hours a month, we could use more committee members. So everybody on that committee a homeowner? Everybody on this, and Mark serves on the board, but like he said, he's there in a capacity to take the recommendations to the board, but the votes are conducted by the 5 members that are homeowners on there. Not that Mark isn't a homeowner either, but we try to separate it. And, you know, the more people that can become involved, like I said, I've went to a lot of board members and our meetings, and one of the advantages to me as a homeowner by attending these meetings, I'm finding out things that are being dealt with months before they ever make a decision, simply because I'm there listening. And if I have questions, I'll go into the office and I'll ask the question, or I'll write the board member, or I'll ask it in our committee member meetings. But we are doing the best we can on that.
Let me make one comment about the financials. The proof is in the pudding. Since we become a resident board, and initially it was Mike who was the treasurer, and we formed the financial committee right in the beginning. Since then, we've always been either just below budget or just above budget, very close to what the budget was. That's amazing. If you look at a lot of HOAs, just read what's going on in Las Vegas, how their people are getting assessments by surprise. We've been very, very close to budget every year, and that is the proof of the work that's being done. As far as waste, none of us like waste. I came here because we have lower assessments than a lot of other places, okay? And if you think there's a waste anywhere, let's talk about it, because we're always looking for places where we can save money. Nobody likes to spend money. We're all homeowners as well. We pay the assessments as well.
I do have a couple of questions regarding the finances, but I do want to ask you first, does anybody here have a letter or have the initial letter that went out concerning the views vote? I tried to find it. I couldn't find it on my phone because I don't go back that far. But let me ask, did it say anything about needing 10% of the homeowners to vote against it in order to,
Yes,
did it say that in there?
yes.
Okay. Did it say how many that was? 10% of what? I know, but did it say you need 138? Just said
Probably not.
10% of the
Probably didn't.
Say 10% of the homeowners? But did it spell out 1,337 homes? No one knew what the 10% was.
Nobody
No,
asked.
Did it say, could you tell from the letter what the 10% was?
We talked about it at town hall, but, okay. So,
Okay.
so you can't ask? You as homeowners have a responsibility as well. That's my point.
Well, I
You
was
can
one of the
always-
first to respond. As soon as I saw the letter, I responded my objection. But what I don't remember, and I'm just asking
Yeah.
for a friend, did it spell out the number of households and the
Prob-
10%?
I don't think it did.
Okay, that's
Okay.
part of transparency.
Okay, that's
It is
also,
part of transparency.
you know, excuse me, hindsight is 20/20.
Okay, that's part of
We
transparency.
we could have done that. We're not perfect. So if there's information that you're not getting, ask us. That's what I'm saying. If you wanted to know how many homes there were and what that 10% was, all you have to do is email the office and we could have provided you with the information.
We did. That's why we did the petition. We wanted to make sure we had enough votes against it. Okay?
So you got the information.
No, well, we did from the office after, but not from what came out.
You know, we're not
Not from
perfect.
what it came
We're
out.
not perfect. If you're expecting perfection from us, you're not going to get it. We're human beings. If we didn't put that in there and that's something you wanted to know, the answer would have been available to you if we got a call.
If you had the answer, you could have put it in. Right? If you knew there was 1,337 homes and 10% were needed to vote, you could have put it in.
Well,
I don't want to belabor the point.
we
though.
assumed, maybe it was a wrong assumption, we assumed that most people know that we have about 1,300 and something homes. We talk about it a lot. Board meetings all the time.
Not all of us do.
No, you don't. So
So let me talk about a couple of financial things. So that's what you asked about. So right now, our monthly dues are around, what, $83 a month, right?
$84.
84. So the management fee for the management services for the staff and all is what? $430, $435? $434. And what's the breakout? Do we break out how much that is per month per household in your analysis? I can do that, yes, but is that provided in the financials? I'm just asking, because I don't know if it's provided or not.
No.
Okay,
You could
So
take
it
every
comes
line
out-
item and divide it by 1,300.
I understand that, but what I'm saying, that's part of the analysis maybe that Brent was talking about. If that's provided with the financials, how much it's costing me, it's $27 is what it comes out to be per month for the financial services, local management services. All right? For the offsite financial management, CCMC is $53,000 a year, I think. Comes out to about $11 $3 per household. And then the reserve fund comes out to about $11 per month. That's half of the fees. But that would maybe help the homeowners to know, okay, this is the breakout of what you're $83 paying for. That's the analysis that maybe that Brent was talking about. But let me ask you concerning the local management service fees, $434,000. Who, is that managed by the HOA or is that managed by CCMC?
Is what managed?
The staff that manages here, the $434,000 for the staff that takes care of the financials, whatever they're doing. You contract that.
We contract that with CCMC.
Is there any reason why the HOA can't take care of that? Is that contractual?
Take care of what?
The management of it.
The management? You talking about
Yes.
self-management?
No, I'm not asking you to do that. I'm asking you to manage the 5 people that are on staff.
We do. They take their orders from the board.
But you contract through CCMC. Is there any reason why they can't contract through our HOA?
We'd have to then add to our staff, be able to accumulate that information.
I don't know what it is. I just know it's 434,000. 4 people, 100,000 apiece. That's for benefits and everything else. Right? That's what it averages out to be then.
No. There's much more than that. Okay?
Well,
No, I mean,
434 for 4 people.
It's more than just salaries, is what we're saying.
Okay. Well, benefits, payroll. So HOA is not in a position to assume responsibility for,
HOA can self-manage if that's what the board wants. And when that happens, my house goes up for sale.
okay? I might consider
Because
that.
I've seen what happens when
I'm
you
just
have
asking the
self-managed.
law. I'm just
Yeah.
asking the question,
You know,
okay?
so-
Are there
Yeah, we
savings
can.
out there?
We
So
can.
Let me ask about the CCMC contract. How many years is it for?
You know, the contract's right on the website. Did you know that? Have you read it?
No, I'm asking,
Yeah.
how many years? What's the
Yeah.
term of the contract?
It's a year at a time.
A year at a time.
Right.
So we can rescind it anytime we want.
CCMC. And we inherited that contract. We didn't design it, we didn't build it, and so forth. At the time we opened up for contract bids, there was some really concerns with CCMC. A lot of people in the homeowners association expressed that. And so we went out, just like any organization would, with formal bids. We got all the bids in, and then we made our decision based on those bids.
What criteria did you use?
It was cost, performance, capability of the company, number of staff hours that they could provide to us, their backup services, what they could do. All those things were either built into the RFP or asked when we interviewed each one of the companies as they came in and gave us their proposal. I think we ended up with 3 bids.
You had 3 bids?
Yeah.
And the criteria, were they available to the homeowners?
Anything that we do is available to the homeowner.
I'm just
sure.
curious. I'm just
Yeah.
asking, Mike.
Hang on a second. I'm passing out for you, because we anticipated this question. I'm passing out to you the exact
Okay.
process that we utilized to choose CCMC.
Perfect.
Okay, and just so you know, I told CCMC when they had the previous staff here, when we went out for, the reason we went out for bid is A, we never went out for bid in 20 years, and it was our fiduciary responsibility. B, we were very unhappy with the staff at the time. And I called CCMC and I told them, if they don't get rid of the 2 people that they got rid of, they're not gonna have a chance for the bid at all. They came in, they brought a whole new staff in, some temporary, some permanent. They turned things around. We were surprised, to be honest with you. They would turn things around. They did an amazing job, and they were the lowest bidder. That's why we chose them. And the committee that chose them was made up of residents. It's all in this handout that I'm passing out.
Okay, was this provided before? Just curious if this has been provided before, or just for the first time tonight?
No, this is the first time we're providing this. We've talked about this in the past, but we
Okay.
thought we'd put it on paper because we anticipated the question might come up.
So this is a good analysis, good financial analysis. I think that's getting back to what Brent was asking.
You know, you're a great candidate to be on the financial committee.
I'd be glad to. So let me, no, I really would. Should retire anyway.
Good.
So we also have other fees that we pay for landscaping, so forth. I assume we put those out for competitive bid.
Yes.
Is that process published anywhere? And also the criteria as to who we pick and why we pick them? I'm just asking again for the analysis. Okay,
I don't think so.
the
yeah, the
contract
contract
is
is
on there,
there.
yes, but the whys and the analysis as to why, I
Well,
think that's maybe important to the homeowner.
The only thing is, you know, we could provide a copy of the RFP, but if we did that, let's see.
Is that legal?
That's what I'm trying to figure out. Yeah. But I think we can certainly talk about the criteria and, you know,
Exactly.
that we're going for a bid. That's a good idea. Somebody writing these down? What-
No, I
Yeah.
thought Brett's question was a good question, and so that's why I brought these things
Yeah.
up. I think it goes along with what kind of analysis can be provided to help us understand the financials and why we're paying what we're paying.
Mhm.
Okay, yeah, $83 might not sound like a lot. $3 doesn't sound like anything. Again, it was the process, I think. That's what bothered me the most when it came to the views vote. But coming to with the financials, there's a lot of analysis I think that would be very helpful to the homeowners. And if we broke it out by, okay, these are the costs per homeowner, showing this is what your $83 is made up of, then maybe we as homeowners might be a little more responsible in trying to find savings in some of those places.
Yeah, that's what they provide us with our property statement. It shows us our taxes for property taxes, and it shows us a breakdown of the major categories of where that's going. I think that's what you're talking about. Good idea. What else?
Do you place out for bid? Is it yearly for different things, like your, you know, you do your janitorial, for instance, 25 grand for janitorial. Is that bid every year or every 2 years? And how's the criteria? Do you get other people bidding on it? Do you submit out for other people to bid? And how does that work?
Yeah, it depends on what we're talking about. We don't do things on an annual basis because it's a lot of work to go through those RFPs and, you know, read them and dissect them and all that. But in general, I would say we are trying to, nobody ever went out for bid for 20 years. So we started the process and we prioritized what we want to go for. First thing we went out to bid for was CCMC, or the management company. And yes, and then, so certain things we might do every 3 years, let's say. Other things, for instance, the janitorial we weren't happy with, even though we only had them for a while, so we went out for bid again. And yes, we try to find as many qualified vendors as we can to go out to bid for. Some of them won't come back, some of them will. Does that answer the question, Mike?
I guess that one's not on. When our finance committee, when I was on the finance committee, started looking at contracts that we had. A prime example of that was a contract for landscaping service. These, I don't want to say these were good old boy contracts, but they were close to it in terms of you may have bid it out 20 years ago, and then the next 19 years they got the contract. And so we were determined to take the 15, I think it was 15 or 17 contracts, bid every one of them out. We're in the process of doing that. We went through janitorial once, we went through it again because we lost our janitorial vendor. So we went through the process again to get a janitorial vendor. We're doing a pool contract right now. We did a landscaping contract. All of those things are prioritized in order, and we're going through them. Now, when we offer a contract, CCMC doesn't give us a lot of specific guidance, whether it should be 3 years, 2 years, 4 years. But what we've been doing is we're offering a contract where we can get out in 90 days, and we don't even give them 3 years. We just say we'll let you run this contract for the next year, and you can get out in 90 days, and we can get out in 90 days. Some of the contracts which have more substance, like a CCMC contract, we don't believe we ought to have that for 1 year. You know, that might be a 3-year contract. So many of you have run your own business. People in Coral Canyon are very sophisticated. We get that. And so are we. We've run businesses. We've been CEOs. When we go through the process, we do it just like we did in our business, with exactness, with preciseness, so that we don't get caught with, you guys are not doing legal bidding. And Amy and her staff through CMC find out what the guidelines are from the corporate office, and then we follow those guidelines. I want you to know that it is pretty circumspect how we do things.
By the way, this might be a good time to point out, I asked Amy to come up with a list, not of everything that the staff does, but major things that they do, and that's in your handout. You might want to peruse that list. Okay, we get a copy of it every month. The Chronicle we have a special Chronicle every month. It lists all the things that the staff is doing. Okay, we can see pictures and so forth. Every time I look at that list, I'm in awe. Absolutely in awe. Those people work their ass off. Okay, and so I hope at least whatever we talk about, I hope there's some appreciation for the work that they do, because a lot of it, I don't realize all the stuff that they do. I'm surprised when I look at it. But there's an amazing amount of work that these people are doing on our behalf. Okay, just want to acknowledge that.
We've alluded to it several times, but you folks as homeowners don't realize what we inherited. It was a mess. It was an absolute mess. Yeah. We opened up the hood though, and we got this. Yeah, we saw the engine was sputtering and steaming, and it's taken us a while to get through that process, to find out where all the clinkers are and how to fix them, and we're in the process of doing that. Obviously we miss things once in a while, but we've got a systematic way of bidding out, of getting the right vendors in, making sure contracts are legitimate. You could take them to court and they'd stand up in court. And we want to make sure every one of our 15 vendors has a valid contract, not just a piece of paper that says, come out and clean the pools. We like you and we'll give you $50,000. We don't want a contract like that. So a lot of the things were, I'm new. I haven't been here as long as many of you. I've only been here since 18. And to see the things that we saw as a board, and I've been in the public sector and high levels of administration for years, and I'd never seen anything like what I saw. And it's the newer version that we're at is getting better and better and is legitimate and can stand up in court. So we're getting there.
I don't want us to pat ourselves too much on our back, even though we deserve to. But I want this to be your meeting. So other questions, comments, inputs?
Well, we're newcomers, but we really feel like this is an awesome place to be. And I want to thank you for the hard work that you're doing too. I love the idea of being transparent too. And when we got involved with this view vote, it wasn't very transparent. And we really tried to be nice about it. And you know, we went up, we called on Monday to get the vote, and we were given the vote. Tuesday, we were given the vote. Wednesday, no way, you can't have the vote. And it was a little bit perturbing and perplexing because, you know, we want to work together with CCMC, with the HOA. We want this to be a good community, and the only way that it will be is if we do work together. And I'm a firm believer in that, but I appreciate everything that's going on that's good. I have one question, and I do not like gossip. I'll tell you that right away. But we have heard several people say that the clubhouse is going to be added on to. That's not right, is it? Hopefully.
Yeah, we're going to have pickleball courts, indoor pickleball courts. We're going to have a sauna. We're going to have massage. Yeah. Japanese, yeah. We actually, the old board, I mean, not the board that we were in, the old resident board, the one who we had that conversation, and I think we spent about 10 minutes on it, Mike, and he said, no way. No way. I mean, you know, we're talking about a lot of money. And I haven't heard too many people say they want us to expand the, you know, it's a little tight. I wish it was a little bigger, but any way you look at it, it's a lot of money, and we're not interested in spending that kind of money. So I'd like to know who the rumor came from, though. And you made my point, okay? There's so much misinformation out there. Just, if you want to know the answer, ask us. Now, as far as the vote is concerned, I'm familiar with the situation. We were tabulating the votes, but we were also verifying it. We just don't take now I'm calling it a vote. You got me going. With the rejections that were coming in, we were tabulating those, but we have to verify every one of those. We had certain staff members doing that work. They were doing other things as well. So at times we didn't know what the vote count or the rejection count was. Okay, I didn't bother asking. I figured I'd find out by the deadline. That's all I cared about. Okay.
One of the things I think is important.
That's working.
Okay, does that work? One thing I want to respond to your question, because I've been involved with finance since day one. When you look at our budget, and Brad can verify this, or Mark, 'cause they're the new group. I've been out since the first of the year. But when I was on the finance committee, we had about 10 to 15,000 of extra uncommitted money on our budget. So you take all the revenue from all the homeowners, you put a budget together to try and match that. We only had what I call 20,000 in contingency. And so when people come to me and say, I heard you were going to expand the clubhouse, there's no way on our operating budget. Now, if you look at our contingency budget, that's a lot higher. And we put, 100 to 150,000 a year in that contingency budget to make sure we cover things. But our facilities, our infrastructure is so old, that budget right now is going to fix things. 60 to 90,000 a year to sprinkling system upgrades. We got a park system that's aging that there's an estimate of 400,000 or 500,000. And so expansion is crazy under the terms we work under. We don't have, your money doesn't go far enough to say we're going to put a 20,000 square foot wing on the clubhouse. That isn't going to happen, because we're just keeping our head above water to deal with 25-year-old now sprinkling systems that were put in at the start of this HOA. Now we're at build out. There's no more lots. All the homes are built. And now all that's left for us is to manage this old infrastructure, including the clubhouse. We've had to put new air conditioning systems in the clubhouse, had to put new carpet in the clubhouse, we've had to paint it. All those came out of the contingency fund because we didn't have enough money in our operating budget. But to think we can add to, it's not going to happen. We'd have to tax you to the point that you'd throw us out and figure out some other way to do business.
Hey, we did receive some questions in advance, so I'd like to be able to bring those up and answer them out of respect for the people who took the time to do that. One is, can you describe the names and locations of the various sections within Coral Canyon, such as the Views, Town Center, etc.? So I'll go through that. Town Center, as generally speaking, is a different HOA. However, the pickleball courts in Town Center and the landscaping right around it is owned by the HOA.
By the way, that's the Town Center.
Yeah.
You just go out the parking lot.
Right. But we own Town Center, but we have an arrangement with the town. I'm sorry, we own the pickleball courts. We have an arrangement with the Town Center HOA where they split the maintenance costs and improvement costs of those pickleball courts with us. So we only pay half the maintenance because a long time ago, the vacation homes was sold with the understanding that they would be able to use those pickleball courts. However, if they cause any serious damage, as they have in the past. If those vacationers cause any serious damage to the town center, pickleball courts, we can always get out of it if we want to. Okay, so that's town center. Then there's the petroglyphs. The petroglyphs are what looks like duplexes. I believe that they're oldest in the area. The interesting thing about, they're part of our HOA. They're behind the school there. What is interesting about them is they only own the building and the land right below the building. Okay, they don't own their backyards and front yards. That's HOA property. We maintain those as part of the HOA, but the petroglyphs people pay for that. Comes out of their dues. Yeah, just the townhomes. There's, I think, 40 of those. 44 of those townhome units. I'm just repeating it so that it gets in the recording. The Views. The Views has, thank you, 124 houses. I don't think there's any lots available anymore. I think they're totally built out. Okay. So the Views is a sub-association. I still get confused trying to explain it, okay? But they are obligated to follow our documents, our CCNRs, our bylaws, all of those kind of things. But we are required to maintain separate financials with the Views. That's why you see the financials on the website. That's it. We do. Yeah, CCMC. Yeah, and they pay for that. The Solus is not part of us. Okay. The original plan was, you know what the Solus is, right? Up at the Mesa? The Solus, the original plan was for the Solus to be part of us. But when we went through a de-annexation, so that we could have a resident board, the Solus wasn't part of that. Now, the way the Views is set up was created by Coal West. I'm not sure I fully understand the reason why. I suspect making money might have something to do with it. Okay? It's a very strange arrangement, and we're sort of stuck with it. Okay? We tried to correct it. We failed. Maybe someday in the future we'll try it again. We'll see. And we'll try to be more transparent. Now, that's that question. The other question is, oh, sorry, the master is everybody else. The master is everybody down here, the people on the Mesa, and if you cross Telegraph, the first part of Homes up until the pocket park and where the pickleball courts are is part of the master. Okay? Did I miss anything? Okay, good. Next question is, will the dirt trail by the water tank ever be paved? Is the person who asked that question here? Because I'm not sure I understand what that means. Yeah, I don't know the answer. It's city. Yeah. I don't think it's Sullivan's anymore. I think it was sold, but I don't know. So the dirt road I'm interested in is the one that goes from the Maverick station that connects to the new road coming down from the Solus. And when I talked to the city manager recently, I was told that as businesses sign up to be part of it, they get to fund a little bit more of the road. So it's his best guess was it's going to be a couple of years. Well, you could, I'm not sure I'd take that to the bank, but I'd love to see that happen because that would divert some traffic that way. The other question was, can you describe the names and locations of the various sections? How many and what are the locations of the various pocket parks in Coral Canyon? Amy, you want to give it a try, or Jason? I don't know how many of you are interested, but there's a lot of expense associated with those parks.
Okay, my name's Jason Clement. I'm the operations director. Let me see if I can verbally describe where the 6 pocket parks are to answer that question. We've discussed putting those in the Chronicle on one of these upcoming Chronicles. Excuse me, losing my voice. So we'll put the addresses and locations so people can find where those are. There are 6 pocket parks that are owned by the HOA. The first one that I would describe is over by that petroglyphs area, just north of the Coral Canyon Elementary School. There's one right in the middle of those twin homes that are up there in that area. There's another pocket park that is down along Cottonwood Wash. So as soon as you come in off Telegraph and Coral Canyon Boulevard, and you take your first right, you'll go back into a little part of the subdivision there that backs up to the wash there. Thank you. And you'll see another little pocket park there. A little further down Telegraph toward SR9, there's an area called 14th Fairway. Right off Telegraph. So as you pull in there, you'll also see a little pocket park. There up on a little further down Telegraph, closer to SR9, there's also an interesting part of your HOA that's actually kind of far away from everybody else. We call that Coral Cove. So it's kind of your last right as you're headed from Telegraph toward SR9 and Hurricane. Your last right, if you take a right and then another right, there's a little piece of your HOA that goes back into that neighborhood, and back in that neighborhood is also a pocket park we call Coral Cove. If we go up on top of the mesa, there's 2 pocket parks up on top. One south off Telegraph down Highland Parkway, right by the clubhouse, the Views Pool Clubhouse across the street on Rock Creek Drive. There's a pocket park, and then as you head toward Heritage Park north off of Telegraph up Highland Parkway, there's Desert Cliff Drive, and just before you get to the park on top of the hill that's owned by the city called Heritage Park, you'll see one. Highland Park. Did I say Heritage? Highland Park. Yeah, Highland Park on Highland Parkway. Desert Cliffs, or yeah, you'll find the last 6 pocket park. But we'll include those in a chronicle so that you can have those available. Any questions?
Jason really gets choked up when he talks about pocket parks. Yes.
Just in the way of transparency, this is early transparency. We have been looking at pocket parks for a year, or 2 years. We've had a company come out and analyze them. We've looked at all the requirements, the federal, state, local requirements for parks. We've looked at liability issues in terms of insurance. And quite frankly, after all those studies, there's a bill to bring our pocket parks up to speed of $400,000 to $600,000. Whether it's on the low end or the high end, I don't know. It's just a preliminary estimate, so don't go home and plan your budget around that. However, we may come back to you with a vote to say, do you want to continue all these 6 pocket parks? Yeah. 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 That comment reverberates all the time when we talk about parks. People say that. I've never seen any more than 1 or 2 kids in the home or in the parks. The only time my family uses it when the grandkids come down and they get bored. And I say, go to the end of the street and go to the park so you can get out of my hair. But, yeah. Yeah. And so we need, as a group of homeowners, we need to say, maybe that was a good investment 22 years ago, but is it a good investment now because the usage is low and the costs are high?
Yeah, but we have a lot of grandparents. I know. I mean, I live on Highland Parkway, so there's that park there, and then the big park is 4 blocks away. Why on earth would anybody want to go to the little park where we have a big park? Okay, but there are neighbors who said, "Don't you dare take that park away from me because my grandkids."
Hi, I'm Allison Galing, and I was on the board a few years ago. And I just want to be clear that even if the decision was made that we don't really want the pocket parks anymore, and we don't really need the slides and that there's a cost with removing that. Down at 14 Fairway, the area, there's a climbing wall that was the handles, many of them were broken, so there were just bolts sticking out. So the board looked at the cost of either replacing the handholds, which was about $7,000, believe it or not, but it was, or just taking out the climbing wall, and that was about $7,000. So I just want residents to know that if the decision, whatever the decision is, whether to maintain the parks or change their usage or remove all of the equipment and just xeriscape them, there'll be a cost to it. It won't be zero cost to do.
Because the equipment is, it's really interesting. When a lot of us grew up, we went on those things that, you fall off and break a thumb or something. And you got to go by yourself. Yeah. Well, but nowadays, insurance, liability, all that kind of stuff. Now, don't take this to the bank. Don't take this seriously. I thought we should just, oh God, I hope I don't piss anybody off about this. I think we should take some of the parks and make them into lots. But that would take a vote from 67% of you. Yes, I'm waiting for you to talk, please.
Hi, everybody. Actually, we have been having conversations about pocket parks, and I got kind of excited because I thought, what else could pocket parks be? And this is something that, watch your Chronicle, because we have talked about putting articles in the Chronicle, like, what would you like there? How about a bocce court? How about a little dog park? How about a little Zen garden? There are endless possibilities that wouldn't cost as much. I mean, it's still going to cost to take them out, but what would you like to see it be, and what would it look like in your neighborhood? If, I live on the Mesa, so the little park there is rarely used because it's so close to the bigger park, which is just a few blocks away. So, but yeah, we've been talking about it. Right now, they're all functional. Jason we had them inspected. We've had any issues that were there, all the higher category. We still have a few little things, or they're all done?
All done.
All the priority one problems that have been addressed and taken care of. So no safety issues, no liabilities that other than what we're already covered for. So all of that is being dealt with. But right now they're all functional, so we're not going to do anything. Yeah.
Well, I'll give you an example of what happened with the park by Highland Park there. We had this double slide, and it was cracking because of all the heat, and can't have little children slide down there and rip their thighs apart. So we were looking at a cost, I think, of $17,000 to replace those. And so what we did, just to give you an example of how we value your money. So what we decided to do instead is put a cheap gate over there and not allow the children to go down those slides. Okay, that looked pretty hideous, and we got some negative remarks about that. But then Jason discovered that those slides can be flipped over, and they're like brand new slides. And that's what we did in that park. And which was the other park that we did that? Rock Creek? Yeah. So very honestly, we've been sort of kicking the park thing down the can down the road a little bit, because we're not in a position of wanting to spend $400,000. I don't think it's got to be that much, but we're really struggling with this one, and we do need community input as to what you all want to see.
So with that study you guys had done, though, have they pointed out any that aren't being used versus ones that are getting used?
No, that's not what the study was about. The study was strictly safety and cost of replacement. So, we dealt with the safety issue. The board went to every one of the parks. We took a look at it, and we did what we had to do safety-wise. We put some of that, what do you call that, George? George really helped us out in that regard. Yeah, yeah. Wood chips, and they have to be 14 inches, yeah. They have to be tossed around every year. It has to be refreshed, yes. Smells good when it's refreshed. Right. And there were other things that we had to do. I don't exactly know how much we spent, but it was much less than 400,000. So those are the kind of things we do struggle with as well. But getting some input from all of you would be helpful. That's what you'd like to see. What else? Anything else? Questions, comments? Oh, yes, thank you.
Crossed over the tax situation. Our Coral Canyon assessment, our
Hello? Okay. Yeah, who's got the numbers? 2027 is what the city told us. We're talking about, I don't know what it is for you all. In my case, it's $700 a year, which was a bond. That was a bond to, for the infrastructure of Coral Canyon, okay, by the city. Now, as I understand it, they always have the right to come up with another bond. I certainly hope that doesn't happen. Well,
Finance Committee, I made several overtures to the city, and they refinanced that bond. And so that extended it a few years, got a better rate, but wasn't a good enough rate for the payoff and the time frame to do it within the original time frame. So that's why you're seeing it go over. So on your property tax, that if you'll just look, I had several calls from people over time, says, what is this? It's infrastructure development. Once that bond is paid off, it goes away. You don't have to pay it anymore.
By the way, that's not an HOA tax. What? What's that? No. Everybody. And by the way, this, yeah. And who knows if they won't raise our property taxes by then to make up for the bond, who knows, But 2027 is when it's supposed to happen. What else? People
in the next county?
in the next online.
Oh, okay. Can you?
Let's try to stay on HOA topics if we can.
Okay, I mean, just real quick on yours though. I know ours kind of went up about $400 too. I went and started doing some checking, and believe it or not, Progressive gave me one of the cheapest rates of anybody. So if you guys looking, you might want to look there. I've also said, somebody was telling me Costco, that found this was good, but somebody that lives right up on top of by the park up there said they wouldn't give them coverage because they were a fire hazard in a fire zone. Didn't make sense. When's the last time we had a fire here?
Well, just I had my insurance with Farmers from an agent in Salt Lake City who I was with for 30 years. They charged me $4,000 here, $4,000 for just earthquake insurance. Okay, so then I went to our mayor, who happens to be a Farmers agent, switched over to him, and I'm paying a lot less money. So there's all, shop around is probably the best thing I could suggest. Yeah. Okay, anything else? Allison.
I have a question. I am serving on one of the community committees, and it's the Governing Documents Review Committee, and we are going through the CC&Rs and the bylaws that have been rewritten by the new attorneys that have been contracted with. And as we know that these will come up for a vote once they've been fully vetted again. And part of our discussion is about how do we get 70% of our 1,338 homeowners to vote on them, for good or bad, hopefully for good, but how do we get them to vote? So we've talked about maybe one way to start getting people thinking about clicking a yes or clicking a no, whatever way you want to vote. Maybe we can do some surveys through the Chronicle on topics that are interesting to people. And my question to you, because thank you so much for coming tonight, because you are invested residents and we appreciate that. What is your thought on, would you respond to surveys? Let's say, for just right now, for example, we talked about pocket parks. If there was a well-crafted question on, should we continue with the current usage, is that something that would be of interest? Okay, yeah.
The way that it would be most effective, if it's a separate thing from that Chronicle. If it's buried in the Chronicle, we're not going to do it.
Somehow you have to get landlords and second homeowners involved, because I think that they don't care.
And what is we're like 40% of our owners are, it's a second home for them.
Yeah, we're struggling. This is one of the struggles that we're going through. And we're well on our way working on those documents. We've had them completely rewritten, because what we learned last time around is trying to modify the documents that we've had for the last 20 years is just too complicated. And we've had a first look at what the lawyers put together, and I would say that most of us, if not all of us, are very pleased with what we've seen. You can actually understand what it says. It's a lot less verbiage, and we're going to come up for a vote on those at some point in time, but we're not going to bring it up to a vote until we feel that we're going to be able to get 70% of the people. And that's a tall order. It may not happen until next year.
So I think the full-time residents can help with that. If we take the time, most of us know, I mean, on my street, I know who are the part-time people are. And I have a relationship with all of them. So if I knew that something was important, I could contact them and say, this is what's going on and they need a vote. Would you please look at your internet and please vote on that? And we did that with the Views. We contacted all of those people that were part-timers, because we knew them, and said, you need to vote on this.
I want to know your name because we'll be contacting you. Oh, yes. Yes, we will. Yes. But I'm curious to know, how do we find those other people that are just like you that, you know, again, do we do it through the Chronicle again? I mean, you know, how do we find those, how do we find those residents that are saying, hey, this is an important issue. I'll volunteer to walk around my neighborhood, to knock on doors. Ideas on how we find more of you. Oh, okay. Should I let him?
Should I talk as a resident?
Yes.
I think this is probably one of the better turnouts we've had to the town hall. The first thing you can all do is try to get more people to the town halls. I mean, whatever we do in terms of communication out, it's just one way. Having two-way communication is so much better. The more people I'd love to fill this room and more. Okay, and the more people we can get involved, what's going on, the better chance we have to get other people to, you know, look at what we're sending out and so forth. I like your idea about the survey idea. I think that's what we're going to talk about. Do it separate from the Chronicle. What I'm starting to learn is a lot of you don't read the whole Chronicle. I don't either. I skip the calendar because I already know it. Yeah, but I think that's something we'll talk about as well, doing that. But the more people you can get in here, if you know your neighbors, the better chance we have to really serve you better. That's what we want to do. Okay. Anything else? Jeff, you've been very quiet. Anything to say?
Yeah, I'd just like to say that I really appreciate everybody coming out this evening. Appreciate people coming to the board meetings and the public forum and telling us what they're thinking about. Because for all of us here on the board, we're all full-time residents here in Coral Canyon. We whatever decisions we make affects all of us too. So we try to be as fiscally responsible as we possibly can and do the best we can for all the residents, which includes all of us. And so when we get more of your input, like we did this evening, and more input at the board meetings, the more informed we can be and the more we know what you're thinking about and what's important to you and the better decisions that we can make when we're on the board. So thank you so much.
Just kind of a comment and a quick, what are you laughing at, Mark? All right, I'm just going to kind of address the elephant in the room. I think this was kind of a special session called, wasn't it? Basically, this. Okay, I thought this was a special one. Okay, we had the big issue last month, the month before last, about the petitions going around and the questions on it and transparency. Can we actually say we've put this to bed now? Is everybody happy with it? With the petition going around about the transparency and everything?
We never have been involved in it, per se. We've never received a petition. But we'll never be done with transparency.
Well, no, I understand that.
Yeah. So.
But I'm kind of thinking this is what brought up this meeting on transparency, because
That's what we understand. Mm-hmm.
We can't get a copy of it because we didn't sign it. That's transparency.
Yeah. The people who had, we heard about a petition, we don't know much about it. They weren't very transparent with us. Yes, I made a comment because we did have quite a few people come to us and tell us exactly what they were being told, and what they were being told was not the truth. And that's illegal. You cannot solicit signatures by lying, according to Washington City Code. That's all we wanted to let people know. Okay? Before, I had somebody that I've known for many, many years who signed that petition and went on next door suggesting that the board is has a hidden agenda that benefits us. Now, I haven't made any money on this position yet. You know, and if there's a way I can do it, I don't know what it is. So that person could have called me. They've known me for a long, long time, even before we moved here. They could have called me and asked me, is this true or is this not true? But instead, they went on next door and started coming up with rumors. That's what we were fighting. Call us, email us. We're here. We want to answer the questions. And if we don't have the answer, we'll get it for you. That's all we're asking. We've never received any kind of a petition. All we heard was rumors. I never signed one. No, I'm not going to say that. I'm not going to speak for future boards. Future boards can do that if they want to. I only speak for myself. The rest of the board may decide differently. I'm not going to make a comment about, we haven't discussed it. We haven't discussed anything. We have a lot on our plate. Okay? And I feel really bad about what happened to the people in the Views, that they didn't have an opportunity to at least vote. But that's my personal opinion. Nobody made any promises to them like that. No. No. When did I say that? By the realtors. The realtors promised them. Oh, I thought you just did. Oh, my hearing's bad. Okay. Yeah, well, you know, that's nothing that we can control. The realtors say all kinds of stuff to sell houses. I don't care. We've had plenty of examples. Okay. Not all realtors are like that. I don't want to suggest that. Okay, anything else? Okay, you're excused.